My brother's funeral, my sister-in-law mockingly said, the $100 million inheritance is going to me now, and you're going to be a beggar. Pack your things and get out of here. I couldn't help but laugh at him. She said to me, have you gone crazy? A big surprise awaited her. After my brother left that day, I casually mentioned the idea of adoption to my 3 sons. My younger son surprised me by saying he would be happy to be adopted. Unlike his older brother, he didn't have any clear goals at the moment and seemed to think that being adopted by Brian would give him an easy life. I had expected my eldest son, who looked up to his uncle and wanted to be a lawyer, to also want to be adopted, but his response surprised me even more. I don't want to be adopted, he said firmly. As the eldest son, I will take care of you, Mom and Dad. I was overjoyed by his words, but at the same time, I knew that my eldest son, with his ambitions to become a lawyer, was the right one to be adopted by my brother. It pained me that I couldn't complete the adoption process on behalf of my brother while he was unconscious, but there was nothing more I could do. I was left feeling disappointed and helpless, knowing that the decision was out of my hands. I had no interest in my brother's inheritance, but the thought of my sister-in-law getting even a penny of his estate made me uneasy, especially since she seemed to be waiting eagerly for his death. All I could do was hope for my brother's recovery, but sadly, that didn't happen. A few days later, my brother passed away, and I had no choice but to inform my sister-in-law. I called her and said, my brother has passed away. Can we arrange the funeral? To my surprise, she responded cheerfully, as if she had been waiting for this news. Everything is up to you, she said, but please don't involve me as a pallbearer. I don't want to deal with any formalities. Before I could even react, she quickly hung up the phone. With no other option, my husband and I took on the responsibility of planning the funeral. The staff from my brother's law firm were incredibly helpful, assisting us in various ways. My husband was also concerned about the future of the law firm, but it turned out that my brother had already taken care of everything. Although he was the representative lawyer, he had delegated the management of the firm to someone he trusted, ensuring that it would continue to operate smoothly as a corporation. Many people attended my brother's funeral, and so many wreaths were sent that they couldn't all fit in the hall. It was during the funeral that I truly realized how respected and admired my brother was. My sons also helped out at the funeral, but my younger son, in particular, was frustrated when he saw the presidents of major corporations, politicians, and other important figures in attendance. He muttered, I knew I should have been adopted. I had no idea how amazing Uncle Brian was. My husband and I both understood his feelings of regret. He saw the influence and respect my brother commanded and felt he had missed an opportunity. I served as a pallbearer, but no one asked why my sister-in-law wasn't present, and no one even mentioned her absence. It made me wonder if we were the only ones who even knew my brother was married. My brother and his wife had never had a wedding ceremony, choosing instead to just go on a honeymoon. It's possible that even our relatives didn't know they were married. Seeing how things turned out, I almost wished they had never married at all. What kind of wife doesn't attend her own husband's funeral? I also regretted not agreeing to let my brother adopt my younger son sooner. I feared that now my sister-in-law would take all of my brother's estate, but with the help of the law firm staff, we managed to complete the funeral arrangements. After the service, I invited everyone to my brother's house for a meal, to thank them for their support. My brother will be able to rest in peace because of all of you, I said. We were all very sad, but it felt like a proper way to honor him. Just then, my sister-in-law made an appearance, wearing a flashy pink coat that was entirely out of place for the occasion. I approached her, sensing that she had deliberately chosen to arrive just as the funeral was ending. Why are you here now, after everything? I asked her. With a big smile plastered on her face, she raised her voice so everyone could hear. My husband's estate, worth $100 million, along with this house, will all be mine. We don't have any children, so everything belongs to me as his wife. She spoke triumphantly, but to my surprise, a few of my brother's colleagues started chuckling. We looked at them in confusion, unsure of why they were laughing. My sister-in-law, clearly annoyed, glared at them and snapped, "What exactly are you laughing at? You're being so rude." One of the lawyers smirked and calmly replied, "We're laughing because we all know that you're officially divorced. We were aware of the outcome of your divorce settlement the day before he collapsed." I was shocked and blurted out, "What? You were divorced?" I looked over at my sister-in-law, whose face had turned from smugness to sheer horror as she stared at the lawyers who had just exposed the truth. Her teeth clenched, and another lawyer spoke up. "I also heard that you were ordered to pay alimony because your affair led to the divorce. It's only fair." My sister-in-law, now furious, yelled back at the lawyer, "I'm not required to pay alimony, am I? There's no one left to pay." She tried to sound mocking, but it was clear she was out of her depth. The lawyer quickly responded, "The right to receive alimony will be inherited by Laura. She's the sole inheritor." It was only then that I realized I was indeed my brother's sole heir. With our parents gone and the divorce finalized, there was no one else. My sister-in-law seemed to realize this too, and she looked at me with a horrified expression, causing me to step back. But she wasn't ready to give up. She began yelling again, "Don't I get half of the estate now that the divorce is finalized?" One of the lawyers, looking dismayed, responded, "Didn't Brian already give you a settlement when the divorce was finalized? I have the receipt as proof. And by the way, the house was purchased before your marriage, so it's not subject to property division." Watching her being schooled by the lawyers was oddly satisfying. Despite the tense situation, she seemed to remember something and suddenly chuckled. "There's life insurance," she said with a sly grin. "I'm still the beneficiary." Her audacity in the face of all this hostility was astonishing. She claimed that she had changed the beneficiary of Brian's life insurance to herself. However, the lawyer quickly shot that down as well. Brian was a careful man. I'm certain he changed the beneficiary when the divorce was finalized. As I searched through my brother's belongings, I found the life insurance policy. My sister-in-law, who had been watching me closely, snatched the policy from my hands and quickly scanned it for the beneficiary's name. When she saw it, her face fell in disappointment, and she handed the document back to me. I glanced at it and saw that I was listed as the beneficiary. Realizing she was at a dead end, my sister-in-law suddenly blurted out her true feelings in frustration. "I married a lawyer because I thought he was wealthy, but all I've gotten is a small amount of money, and now I have to pay alimony. This was a huge mistake. One of the lawyers present, with a grim expression, responded, Brian felt the same way. He regretted ever seeking advice from a marriage counselor. He admitted he made a huge mistake. My brother had never shared these thoughts with me, but it was clear he had been honest with his colleagues and subordinates. Unable to come up with a response, my sister-in-law stormed out of my brother's house, defeated. Later, she would be required to pay the alimony in installments, but without a job, she quickly found herself in a difficult situation. She started looking for work, but having never held a serious job before, she quit almost immediately. Desperate to find a way out, she re-registered with a marriage counseling agency, hoping to find another wealthy man to exploit for quick money. She did manage to find a wealthy man and convinced him that she needed money for marriage, but he soon realized her true intentions and reported her to the police. She was arrested for marriage fraud. A lawyer from my brother's law firm later informed me that, to be honest, no alimony had ever been paid to me. When I visited the lawyer to discuss it, he explained that with her recent arrest, it was unlikely I would see any alimony payments in the foreseeable future. Alimony was never my primary concern, though. I was more interested in seeing her face the consequences of her actions. I believe my brother would have agreed with me. I hoped the police would thoroughly investigate any other crimes she may have committed and ensure she was charged appropriately in court. After unexpectedly inheriting my brother's property, my family moved into the house he had left behind. My husband and sons were thrilled to finally live in a big house after spending years in a small apartment. My eldest son began studying law with even greater determination. Watching my brother's colleagues and subordinates argue with my sister-in-law during the funeral had inspired him even more. Although he was never adopted by my brother, I hope he will carry on my brother's legacy and become a great lawyer like him. Only my younger son seemed upset and a bit disappointed that I had inherited everything. With a half-joking smile, he said to me, to be honest, I wish I had been adopted by uncle so I could have inherited everything. His words were playful, but I could sense a hint of regret behind them.